Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last session of the day. We're going to be discussing digital citizenship and Be Internet Awesome, partnered with Pear Deck. My name is Risa Bennett. I am the Program Manager for Education and Outreach here at Pear Deck. I would love it if you would give me a follow on Twitter. If you learned something new or enjoy it, feel free to give us a shout out. Thank you so much for joining us today. As I said, today's session is about Google's Be Internet Awesome curriculum. And the reason that someone from Pear Deck is representing the topic today is because Pear Deck and Google's Be Internet Awesome team joined up a couple of years ago to make all of Google's digital citizenship curriculum free and interactive using Pear Deck. If you're not familiar with Pear Deck, I don't want you to fret. I will show you some of the basic ins and outs as we go along. But if you don't know much about Pear Deck and you're not really sure how these two go together, be sure to tune into our Introduction to Pear Deck session tomorrow. It'll be happening at 2 Central. So make sure to keep an eye out for that. Check out the schedule and put it on your calendar to join and learn more about Pear Deck. But today we're going to cover a little bit of both. So let's go ahead and get started. So in 2020, I think at this point we've all had some sort of conversation around digital citizenship, around internet safety, and if we have been on this planet for 7 years up to 77 years or more, we've probably seen what bullying looks like in real life, and we've probably seen what it looks like on the internet. I don't know if you recognize the image that's here on my screen right now, but last fall, I would say there was a pretty devastating story circulating around the internet about a little boy who wanted to wear his favorite school colors to Spirit Week, but he didn't have an actual t-shirt from the school that he wanted to support. And so he created his own University of Tennessee t-shirt. I'm hearing I have a little bit of audio challenge. Let me see what I can do here. Bear with me just a moment. So if you saw this story out on the internet, you may have learned that this little boy made his own University of Tennessee shirt and wore it to school and ended up taking a lot of criticism, a lot of kids giving him a really hard time, and it was a pretty devastating experience. So that's just one more well-known story of bullying that's been going around in the last year. I spent a lot of time on calls this summer interviewing different teachers who have been doing remote learning, and they shared that one of the really upsetting things that they were observing with remote instruction was that kids wouldn't join their Zoom or Meet calls because their classmates would take screenshots of them and then put unflattering images of them on the internet. So as if you don't have all of your own personal experiences with classroom bullying and students hurting one another, those are just a few of the more recent ones that I know we've been facing. And you could probably all give a long list of real life examples, even more so probably during remote instruction. So let's talk about what that looks like and how we can address it. So we all know anecdotally what's going on. We know that kids are heavily connected to the internet. The most recent stats that Google has shared with me is that about 79% of kids have their own smartphones, which is honestly so staggering when you think about what most of us probably grew up with. And then that 86% of kids are using the internet every single week. I honestly can't believe that's not 100%, but I'm sure it's taking access into account. And when you think about it, this is really the first generation of history that has grown up with constant access to the internet, probably from infancy if they're being put in front of an iPad. So bullying is something that we've battled for decades, and we know what it looks like, but technology has really taken it to another level, and it has made it even harder to intervene. Again, the data that Google shares with us says that about 28% of students have experienced bullying personally. 71% of students have witnessed bullying directly. Again, I gotta think that number is maybe a little bit lower or a little bit low to reality. But what we know is that none of those conversations are ones that teachers are getting invited to. What's interesting though is since most students are not getting invited, or most teachers are not getting invited to the conversation, what's shocking though is that educators are seen as the most trusted source to maximize benefits and minimize harm of technology for children. So that means that, or excuse me, that's just generally parents see, or parents in the community see teachers as the best suited to help their kids navigate the internet safely. But 84% of educators don't feel like they have the resources they need to actually teach that effectively in the classroom. So I wanted you to think to yourself, and you're welcome to just throw your thoughts in the chat. How do you feel equipped to serve as the most trusted resource to protect students on the internet, especially when you look at that data? I would just encourage you to drop the comments in there on the side. So to help teachers feel more prepared, feel more empowered, in 2017, Google launched The Internet Awesome, and this is a program that is designed to provide resources that help educators, that are for students, and also to help connect with parents in the community. So you have access as an educator to resources in 9 different languages. You can see them here on my screen. You can find these resources in English, Spanish, Portuguese, Arabic, French, Polish, Turkish, Dutch, and Italian. So I know we have people joining us from all over the world. Hopefully one of those languages will be helpful to you. So the approach is 3-pronged, as I mentioned earlier. You can attack digital citizenship from one side, but it takes really the whole community. And so Google's The Internet Awesome curriculum provides resources for you as educators. It also provides resources for the students, of course, who are the ones that we're trying to empower. But I think that we all know as educators that you can do your best, but parents need to be involved as well. You can spend all day, every day teaching students things, but a lot of this is happening not at school, it's happening at home. And the more that parents can be involved and empowered, the more effective this instruction is going to be. And so Google actually partnered with a number of really reputable sources and has all these certifications from iKeepSafe, Connect Safely, ISTE, all of these. So these actually meet standards for teaching students technology effectively. I apologize. I'm being told that my audio is not coming through for this video, so we're just going to skip forward a little bit here. I apologize. This will be included in the follow-up communication, so thanks for bearing with us with a little bit of technical hiccup there. So I'm curious, and you can drop your response in the chat. Is your district working on digital citizenship and online safety? You can throw in constantly, not at all, whatever you fall in between. Just throw that response in the chat. And then the next thing that I want to know, and you can throw this response in the chat as well, do you and your community have the resources that you need to effectively teach digital citizenship? So again, this is where Google comes in, and this is where Pear Deck comes in as well. So as I mentioned, Google provides not only teaching resources, but you can actually take a course yourself as an educator to help you feel a lot more prepared to teach digital citizenship to your students. You can see here on the screen what all it provides. So you can learn the content at a self-paced. So whenever you have time, you can be taking in the new information. You can practice and take quizzes to make sure that you are prepared to deploy. And then you can actually earn badges. And then, of course, we provide the curriculum and the tools for you to then deliver this information to your students. So there are 5 pillars of Be Internet Awesome, or 5 fundamental lessons that are covered in Google's Be Internet Awesome digital citizenship curriculum. So the first unit is called Share with Care, and you teach your students about leaving their digital footprint. Sometimes now I'm hearing people call it their digital tattoo, because you can't actually sweep away what you've left behind on the internet. But anyway, talking about online reputation and how to communicate responsibly. The second pillar of Be Internet Awesome is don't fall for fake. It's knowing the signs of a potential scam and being discerning when you're consuming content. The third one is secure your secrets, and you work with students to learn how to protect their personal information and build strong passwords. The fourth one is it's cool to be kind, and you're working with students talking about being positive online, being an upstander when others are not, rather than being a bystander and letting bullying just happen. And the final pillar of Be Internet Awesome is when in doubt, talk it out. So if you see something you're not sure about, talk to a trusted adult. I think sometimes even adults can be guilty of just internalizing bad things that they see or experience on the internet and not communicating those out loud and taking a proactive approach. So again, I mentioned this is a partnership conversation between Google's Be Internet Awesome team and the Pear Deck team. And so we teamed up to take all of the curriculum that Google built that is so insightful and timely, and we dropped it all into Pear Deck's interactive slide presentation tool. So if you haven't heard of Pear Deck before, what I need you to know is that Pear Deck is a student engagement and formative assessment tool. You can find us as an add-on for Google Slides inside of the Chrome store. So if you haven't checked us out, again, you can find us by searching add-ons, and Pear Deck is right there. And again, if you haven't seen Pear Deck in action, tomorrow will be the day to check us out. Our session is tomorrow at 2 Central. So we're going to take a look at just one of the 20, I think it's 26 pre-made interactive lessons that Google and Pear Deck partnered up to create. So this is just one example, and this is from the 4th unit of Be Internet Awesome. It's cool to be kind, and the activity is focused on bystanders and upstanders. And so as we walk through this activity, I'm going to demonstrate for you some of the different aspects of Pear Deck and what makes it interactive, what students see, and what teachers see. Hopefully that'll come through on some of the screenshots. And again, if you want to dig in more on how to make your lessons interactive with Pear Deck, you can check that out tomorrow. So when you launch into a Be Internet Awesome activity, it comes with everything that you already need for a full scale lesson. So it comes with a lesson objective. Today's lesson objective is how can I be an upstander? And it also comes with activity goals. So for this particular lesson, you know that you would be working with students to identify situations of harassment or bullying online. You would help them evaluate what it means to be a bystander or upstander online. Students will learn specific ways to respond to bullying when they see it, and they'll be able to know how to behave if they experience harassment. So the first interactive slide is asking students to identify what is a bystander and wondering how a bystander can make bullying worse and how a bystander can make it better. What you're seeing on my screen on the bottom, you'll see the prompt that says, students, write your response. This is an example of a text slide. If you had joined my lesson as an interactive Pear Deck, you would see a student view, which is just a bit different from what I'm showing here. The student view would look like this. And on your student screen, you would be able to enter these responses into a text box. So instead of a teacher calling on 1 or 2 raised hands to answer these questions, or instead of students using pencil and paper to write them and teachers collecting them later, what would happen instead is that on the individual device, the student could respond to the questions. And while they are responding, I apologize, you guys. It looks like I'm having some serious audio problems, and I apologize. Okay. Thank you for your patience. This is the most real life thing, isn't it? Working from home and having connectivity issues. All right, let's get back to this. And I apologize for the blip in communication here. So I want to backtrack and make sure you heard what I was saying before, which is that what you're looking at on my screen here is what a student view would look like. I would pose this question with my interactive Pear Deck slide, and students would be able to join the presentation on their own device and respond to the question here in the text box that you see on the right. While students are responding in real time, as the teacher, I have a different view, and we call this the Pear Deck Teacher Dashboard. The teacher dashboard is real-time insight into what every single student is contributing on their slide here. What a teacher would see is this over here. And so this is the teacher dashboard. I just want to highlight a few things to you. On the left, on the teacher dashboard, you can see exactly what slide you're on and which one's coming up. And you can also view your speaker notes as well. But the important part, and this is the formative assessment part, is that I can see every single student's response coming in real time. And I can see their names associated with each response. What I'm also able to do is select maybe some of the best answers, and I can actually share those favorite answers with the class. So here you'll see that I've starred a couple of answers that I thought were good, insightful answers. And then again, using my Pear Deck tool, I can project those selected answers anonymously to the rest of the class. This can be done remotely if you're teaching remotely through a Google Meet. This can also be done in an in-person classroom. Pear Deck offers opportunities for both remote and in-person instruction. So in this case, when I highlighted a couple of responses, what I'm able to do is now we can share those, and as a group, we can discuss each of the individual answers, what they did well, what they could do better, how they differed, and if any student would add to these responses. So not only can I see what students think about this particular prompt with Be Internet Awesome, but it gives us an opportunity to engage with further discussion and learn from one another about the nuances of digital safety. So that was a Pear Deck text slide. Pear Deck has 6 different interactive slide types. I'm going to show you just a couple of them here. And then again, if you want to see the full spread of what Pear Deck can do in your classroom, you can see that tomorrow. So the next question that I would pose with the Be Internet Awesome activity is asking students this question: what can you do when you are the target of bullying? And then what can you do when you are an upstander? So this is a drawing slide, and you know that by seeing the bottom of my slide here where it has the prompt that says students draw on the slide. And again, my students would see something a little bit different on their devices if they joined my lesson. Their view would look more like this. And so you can see at the bottom of their screen, they would have a set of drawing tools. They could choose from different colors, adjust the size of their drawing tool, and even add text onto their slide as well. So this is just an example of how a student would engage with a drawing slide. Now, you might be thinking, I would not necessarily want to be showing drawing responses. If you teach older students like I used to do, you would want to have control. And that's what I showed you earlier, that you can hide or highlight certain responses before projecting them on the screen. But again, using these anonymous shared responses or sharing the responses anonymously with the class to bolster discussion. So I picked a couple of my favorite ones again here. And we could talk about people's definitions of upstander. This person wrote an example conversation that they might have if they were an upstander. Again, it gives students an opportunity to engage with the lesson both concretely and abstractly, and then an opportunity to discuss their observations as a class. In addition to being an interactive presentation tool, Pear Deck also offers an interactive vocabulary game called Flashcard Factory. And when you grab the Be Internet Awesome curriculum that has been made interactive by Pear Deck, not only do you have access to all these individual lessons and slide presentations, you also have access to a list of vocabulary terms that goes with each of the 5 Be Internet Awesome units. So you may have noticed we were using words like upstander and bystander during this little activity that we checked out, either as a front-loading activity for vocabulary or as an enrichment vocabulary activity after what we just did. We could actually play Flashcard Factory, which allows students to be put into partners. And one partner is assigned to write a definition or use the word in a sentence. And then their partner on their own device is directed to be the illustrator. And that partner would actually draw a picture to illustrate the term. And then as a group, you guys can go through the definitions and pick your favorite flashcards to then review together later. So that was just a taste of what Be Internet Awesome looks like when it's paired with Pear Deck. There's really so much more to see and learn, and we want to make it as easy as possible for you to access all of these great resources. So if you head to peardeck.com/be-internet awesome, and I think my moderators are going to throw that link up on my screen here. It'll also be in chat. If you go there, you can find all of the resources that you have available from our partnership with Google. You can download a curriculum guide. It is the full scope and sequence of how to cover all 5 units and the different lessons that you can break out for your students. Again, along with that comes with all the interactive Pear Deck lessons. So you don't have to think up activities. You don't have to think up a delivery method of how to convey this information to your students. Using Pear Deck, all those lessons are turnkey and created for you. All you have to do is launch the Pear Deck lesson inside of Google Slides with the Pear Deck add-on. As I mentioned too, our partnership curriculum comes with vocabulary lists so that you can play our interactive vocabulary game with Flashcard Factory. And finally, you can also get all the badges and certificates of completion to provide to your students when they've gone through the full Be Internet Awesome unit. Again, that link is on my screen. It'll be shared in chat, and you can find it on Pear Deck's website or on Google's Be Internet Awesome website as well. One of the other things that is really fun that both teachers and students really love is that every unit of the Be Internet Awesome curriculum comes with interactive games. You can actually play this game called Interland. Again, this can all be found both on Pear Deck's website for Be Internet Awesome as well as Google's Be Internet Awesome website. So it's not just classroom activities, but you're meeting kids right where they are with these interactive games. So again, we want to celebrate and encourage people to be engaged as much as possible. So you're getting all of these badges, all of these certificates of completion, and teachers can actually add these to their own profiles as well. One thing that you'll learn a little bit more about tomorrow in the Intro to Pear Deck webinar, but that I want to share with you briefly, is that anytime a student joins an interactive Pear Deck session, you can actually publish a follow-up document to every student who participates and completes the activity, and it's called a student takeaway. And a Pear Deck student takeaway is actually a Google Doc. I'm hearing some questions about age group, by the way. This is geared for upper elementary and middle school. Everything can be adjusted to be age appropriate for younger or older because Pear Deck lessons are Google Slides that can be edited, but ideally we're looking at about 4th grade to 8th grade. So back to my student takeaways. A student takeaway is a Google Doc that shows every slide that you had in your presentation on one side here. And on the other side of the Google Doc is that students, their individual answers to the slide. So this is a great review tool for 2 reasons. First of all, students can go back and see all the content that was delivered from your presentation, and then they can also go back and review their own answers. Teachers also have access to the doc for each one of these students as well. So because it's a Google Doc, it is fully editable by both owners, both the teacher and the student. You can actually go in and leave feedback for students' participation as well. So making that a full feedback loop and extending the conversation about internet safety long past your lesson. If you want to learn more about student takeaways, how they work, again, tomorrow's Pear Deck session is a great opportunity to dive in a little bit deeper on that. So the full Be Internet Awesome curriculum and all of the interactive Pear Deck activities are available to you with just one click. On my screen, you should be seeing a link to the downloader. You can install all of the things that I've been talking about here with one click. It'll go straight to your Google Drive. It is free, by the way. I don't think I've reiterated this nearly enough. Everything that comes from Google's Be Internet Awesome is free, and you can actually use the free version of Pear Deck as well in order to present these lessons. I'm seeing a question here. Do students' names show up in the free version? The answer is no. Pear Deck has a free version and a paid version, and the free version allows you to see responses anonymously, but you don't have access to that teacher dashboard that helps you control what's being projected. But the good news is that we're actually going to provide an upgrade link to you today. So if you want to try out Pear Deck for 90 days for free on the premium version, we'll be sharing that link with you in just a moment. So at the beginning of my lesson, I shared some pretty sad stories about bullying. But what I am so excited to tell you is that with interventions from teachers, both of these stories have much happier endings. So at the beginning of our conversation today, I was talking about the little boy who didn't have his own University of Tennessee t-shirt to wear at Spirit Day and that he was bullied because of it. But his teacher actually intervened and shared his story with the University of Tennessee. So not only did the university turn his artwork into an official University of Tennessee t-shirt that they sold in their bookstore, they also gave this little boy a full ride scholarship to the university when he graduates from high school. And all just because the teacher intervened and turned a really terrible situation into an incredible situation. And the other story I shared with you about teachers telling me that their students were being screenshotted on Zoom calls or on Google Meet calls and then being put on Instagram. Some of the teachers that I talked to figured out that they could use Pear Deck asynchronously and they could actually deliver all of their lessons remotely and asynchronously, and that they didn't necessarily have to rely on video calls in order to connect with their students. And so they were able to increase their students' engagement, make their students feel safer, and cut down on the internet bullying just by using Pear Deck as their delivery tool. All right, I mentioned just a moment ago that we are giving away 3 months of Pear Deck Premium access. So if you are interested in how you can make your Google Slides interactive using Pear Deck, if you are interested in how you can see real-time insights into student learning and real-time formative assessment, Pear Deck wants you to check us out. That link will be on my screen right now. And also, because you registered for this amazing event this week, you're going to receive a follow-up email from us that is going to have that same code. So if things are going pretty quick in the chat, or that short link is a little too quick for you on my screen right now, I don't want you to worry. We will make sure that you get your free Pear Deck Premium access in that follow-up email. We have a lot of ways that you can stay connected with us. Probably if you're here, you are following us on one of these platforms, but we would love for you to connect with us on any and all of them. We keep them all active. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We provide tons of great resources for you. We love to do giveaways. Next month is Peartember. We do a ton of really fun giveaways in Peartember. In the meantime, stay connected with us. And that concludes my presentation. I would love to take some questions from the chat if my moderators want to share some questions with me. All right, so David says, my district will be using the Hub. I'm told that we'll be able to use Pear Deck via Microsoft. Will the features you're discussing in Google be available to us through Microsoft Teams? Some of what I shared with you is available through Microsoft. So we do have an integration with PowerPoint Online. So you can actually make your PowerPoint Online slides interactive with Pear Deck interactivity as well. This only works for the online version. Pear Deck is not compatible with the desktop version of PowerPoint. And we do have an integration with Microsoft Teams as well. One limitation of the Microsoft integration versus the Google one is that you cannot use the takeaways function. Takeaways are specific to our Google integration. Great question, David. We're so excited to have you. Leticia, thank you for the Spanish version. We have a dual language program at one of our schools. Oh, that's awesome. Leticia, thank you so much for joining us. And yes, we have the full Google Be Internet Awesome curriculum in Spanish as well. So no need to translate there. All right, any other questions for me before we wrap up today? Brenda, thank you, Brenda. I appreciate that. I think if we've learned anything over the last 5 months, it's that we just have to keep our cool and roll with it. Oh, good. Thanks, Linda. I'm so glad that you caught all the information. All right, Jeff said, Vocabulary Factory is my favorite, my students' favorite. Yes, people love Flashcard Factory. It is great for all ages as well. Don't be deceived by the adorable pair. High schoolers are not too cool to play Flashcard Factory. All right, any other questions? Well, you guys have been amazing. Thank you for sticking with me through technical difficulties. As with everything going on today, you'll be able to access this recording at any time. This is our last session of the day for the Prepared to Learn series. We'll be back again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central. Thank you so much for joining us for this day of learning. We look forward to all that tomorrow is going to bring us. Thanks, and have a wonderful afternoon.